All right. Let's see here. Hello, everyone. Today is Friday, January the 20th, and uh, we are now taping this episode of Between Two Teachers. So, my name is Consuelo Lara.
And my name is Madeline Cronenberg, and this is episode 189 of Between Two Teachers. We're now going to label them by number. I welcome you here, and as always, I will give the land acknowledgement. We pause to acknowledge that we have gathered on the ancestral territory of Huichin, which is part of the unceded land of the Chochenyo and Karken-speaking Muwekma Ohlone people. We remember their continued connection to this land and give thanks to them for allowing us to live, work, learn, and pray on their traditional homeland, and offer our respect to their elders and all Ohlone people, past and present. And we continue to encourage you to support the Justice for Muwekma movement so that our words are not without action. And we support the inclusion of the Muwekma Ohlone people in the federal tribal benefits. And we also support the curriculum regarding our Native heritage that's on the East Bay Regional Park District website. And that's a curriculum for 3rd and 4th graders learning about the history of California. And we ask you to like, share, and subscribe to our channel and join us as we move forward with Between Two Teachers. And now we'll be going into the 190th episode next time we meet, which just shows how long we've been doing this. I'm just going to start off with a couple of things. One national story is in Seattle. The Seattle School District has sued the social media companies, Facebook, Google, I think even TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, I guess, accusing them of contributing to the youth mental health crisis. And it's got to do with the algorithms that folks that students are served that can cause them to do self-harm, that can cause them to become really negative in their thinking, and that is really very, very dangerous to them. So it's their lawsuit is really the beginning of making changes, because clearly what they're doing themselves and policing, the self-policing that the social media folks are doing, isn't enough.
Yeah, I know. And one of them was exposed in terms of those algorithms and how they're very negative, but it's just for them to get more people, more kids, without thinking about the consequences of what they're doing. It's horrible. So I hope this will bring more exposure to what are they doing with those algorithms? What are they promoting?
Right. And what can they do, right? And what can parents do? I mean, part of it is that the easy access for all of us to get on and get an account. You can be 11 years old and lie about your age. And, if you have access, they're all those kinds of things. We as school districts give our students tablets and laptops. So it's not like we're not admitting that we're giving them access from that perspective. Yeah. It's just a question of what kinds of, they're in charge of the algorithms, and what the algorithm generally does is it feeds you more of what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. Right. And we all know that. So if we go look for something online, suddenly you see more and more of that.
Yep.
And that's what that's the business model.
Yeah.
So we've got to they have to figure out a way to limit that and to understand who their customers are when their customers are underage students.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Okay,
but it's a really,
it's
a really good one to follow.
Seattle.
I do want to go back and talk about our local issue. And the big issue right now is that we have not gotten a contract with our teachers. And so the West Contra Costa School Board is still in negotiations. And there's going to be a rally, and so there will continue to be rallies until they come to the end of the line and make a decision. They went out of the first stage, which is mediation. They're moving into fact finding, which is, I believe, where they are today. Their issues are competitive salaries, shared decision making, which is a giant one, and community schools. But the shared decision making really is one of the big they're all sticking points, but the shared decision making looks like it would be the easiest one. They had a presentation about community schools and talked about the importance of shared decision making, of bringing the community in, because that's what community schools are about. And that is a struggle for the district spokespeople and the district, the folks who are making the decisions within the district, which is sort of separate from the board, but the board can give direction. So that's, that is where they are. They had a meeting last week with also around facilities, and the facilities issues are, we need to get more information as to what's happening with the facilities. What's going ahead and not going ahead. And this is just an issue that many districts have. I mean, districts have facility programs. The issue is how you're going to communicate out what's going on. I mean, historically, we had a number of committees that had board member participation and that met on a regular basis. They've discontinued that, and that cuts off the community from having access to information.
And in the meantime, costs are going up, the resources are dwindling, and pretty soon it's just going to be impossible to do what the vision was, and that is to rebuild some schools. So
that is really the problem. What you really needed to do was, I mean, what had happened in the past is that we had hired more people and expedited and put things on a faster track. And either you're going to do that or not do that. When you don't do that, you pay the cost of inflation.
Yep.
That's just one more thing. So we need to really look at what's happening there with them and see, once they get past their big issue right now for them, the issue is resolving their contract dispute with their teachers union. After that, they really have to start looking at what they're doing in each of these other areas, and facilities, that's a big one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do want to say one thing in the culture war world. In Florida, the Mr. DeSantis, the governor of Florida, has placed somebody new as a board member on a state education board, and he placed on that board the man named Christopher Rufo. And Christopher Rufo invented the whole uproar around critical race theory. He is the one who made it what it is today, which is totally misunderstood. He's now going to be in charge, or part of the group that's in charge of a public college in Florida.
Wow. See.
It's quite, this isn't, they're definitely going all in. If there was ever any doubt, you can just see the strategies here are very much there. So they're going to be very clear on how they're going to portray the history of the United States, and how they're not going to portray it.
Yeah. Okay. So the fight
that's
continues.
The fight so continues. The fight down there is endless, right? And the other two places that there continues. There's a whole new report that's been put out by the Network for Public Education. They've got a 2023 report called Chartered for Profit 2, the Pandemic Profiteering Report, which is really worth your time and shows us where the money has been made. And this is across the country. It's a national report. But it really is clear how our children are monetized, and that the education business has been monetized, and that chartered industry is continuing to do that. So that's a brand new report that just came out. And then the other thing in that world that's happening is the school choice savings accounts are growing all over the country and state after state. And every time you do that, what you're doing is taking money, basically funding children who are already going to private schools. Now they're going to get money for the taxpayers to pay for that.
Yeah, yeah, to go to private schools, taxpayer money. Yeah.
Right. And often, religious schools, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
The other big news that we had, which was two pieces in Oakland, is, we had the Oakland School Board race, and the results were, as it turned, there were results, and the results were that a man named Nick Resnick won in District 4. They used ranked choice voting. The ranked choice voting had an error in the algorithm. And when that algorithm's error was discovered, it was after the race had been certified. It turns out that this algorithm impacted many races, but it only changed the results in one race, and that was the race in the school board district. So Mr. Hutchinson now has been told he got the most votes. However, he was not the certified winner because they had certified the winner before the error was discovered. This is a big lawsuit. So this is in Alameda County Court. Meanwhile, Mr. Hutchinson was going to be on the board anyway because he was switching from one district to another. His home had been redistricted from one district to another. He wound up after an election where another person was elected as board president. He wound up being voted in as board president because he challenged or had a revote of the board presidency vote. He is the board president. He had been the leader of keeping schools open,
Yeah.
and he's done that. He changed the school closure vote. They revoted and rescinded the vote to close the schools.
Oof.
This is an amazing story.
Yeah, no kidding. What a big turnaround, going from thinking you're not going to be on there to becoming the president of the board. So yeah, big change, and so happy for those schools that are not going to be closing.
Such a big story. So we will see, and other places need to just look at that and say, this can be done. Communities, this was where the communities came together, and it was clear that it was the right decision to make. So that was the big reversal in Oakland, and we'll see where they go next. So to the county, what's happening at the county?
Yes, in Contra Costa County Board of Education, lots of times people saying, as well, what do you guys do anyway? Because we're different than a district, certainly. But we do have schools. We have the court and community schools, juvenile hall, and when students get expelled, they have a community school for them, different than a district community school. So it's just like a court-ordered school. But our job really is to provide oversight and transparency to the programs that the county has. And so that includes student outcomes. We're supposed to look at that and see if how are we doing a good job. My special thing is reading levels. What are the reading levels of our kids? So we need to oversee that, and we need to see, well, how do we know, how are we doing anyway, and how do we know? So we need to provide that to the public also. Student outcomes, resources for the court and community schools, that's a really important, because I'm interested in the mental health services that are being provided for these students. There's money, and these are the students, most vulnerable students, and they really need those services. So I've asked for that, like a review of the services that are there provided for them. And we also oversee, a big thing is the budget. And we need to know the budget, not just the part that we vote on, but the whole budget, I believe. And because about how we spend our money shows our values. What do we value? And that's where we're going to put our money. And so I'm hoping we have a nice study session so we can hear all the jargon and know what budgets there are. And we can look at them as a whole holistically. So that's one. Another big priority for me is the community engagement piece. And that involves the Board of Supervisors passed formation of the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice. And this study, this report, did extensive research from UC Berkeley. Researchers came in and researched the whole county for the different systems that are under the Board of Supervisors, whether it's health or justice or all kinds of things, real estate, any housing, those kinds of things, and looked for harms, meaning any kind of things that happen to people of color, from violence to just neglect to, all kinds of things that might have happened. And they collected these experiences. And it's very extensive. But one of the things that does not come under the Board of Supervisors is education. And that's why we have a board office of education. So that's our area. So I want to know more about what they discovered in that research. And I'm hoping that we do bring this research to the board and we examine it closely. What were the findings? And I'm just really excited about that. In fact, my shout out is going to be to that researcher, Kirby Lynch, who's a professor at Cal African Studies. And yeah, she's just amazing person. Another priority that I have is our policy manual, to have a review workshop. That's important for us to know that we're caught up on our policies and they're up to date. And then also a retreat. And one of the things I want us to discuss at the retreat was just mentioned about shared governance. We have a new trustee handbook, and part of the title is, implementing shared governance. Well, what does that mean? And that's a real paradigm shift for some people who are going to have to let go of some power and control. So we just have to figure out how to do this carefully so that they realize children benefit, our communities benefit, everybody benefits when you do this, when you have that kind of collaboration. You'll get academic results, all kinds of different results will come from it. The research has shown that also. So yeah, it's funny you mentioned that shared governance. That's what we need to be promoting.
The thing about shared governance is what it means is that you get more information into the pipeline because you have more people whose voices you're listening to.
Yeah.
Right. And that can only make things better. I mean,
yeah.
When you just step back and look at that, it can only make things better. And the reason that you would object to it would be, well, you think it's, too cumbersome for some reason. And obviously if you're the person making all the decisions, you're going to object to it because now all of a sudden you're not making all the decisions by yourself. But at the same time, you're sharing the responsibility for the decisions, and you'll share the criticism. You can share, you're going to share everything from the decisions that are made, the governance decisions that are made. And it does make more sense to do it that way.
Yeah. And it addresses equity. That's what equitable to have shared governance. You've listened to everybody who's influenced by those decisions. So yeah, changes, a lot of big changes and advocacy. So that's the things that are happening at the county.
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot going on. And this is going to be a big year at the county, and as it is everywhere. And we all need to look forward to and support wherever you are, whatever organizations you're connected to and networks you have is to pay attention to the kinds of changes that are happening, because sometimes they're very you have to look for them, and don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to look for them. We bring up the ones that we see. Some of them we're much more connected to, right? I'm going to do my shout out now to the folks at UTR. The folks at UTR really deserve credit for fighting for the children of West Contra Costa. I had the incredible opportunity the other night to actually meet Dolores Huerta. And years ago, the families, the teachers of UTR went on a hunger strike up in Sacramento. And that strike was ended because of Dolores Huerta and her connection to the governor's mansion, right? Basically, Maria Shriver and that path. But her connection to that and what's going on today really does strike me as a profound thing. Our teachers need support, and the union is working really, really hard to try to get the school district to live up to what it says that it values. You can't say you value climate and you value mental health and then be unwilling to put anything in to show that you do value that. Right? You can't. It is absolutely not compatible. It's hypocritical, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
It's hypocritical. If you want to be a district that is the lowest paid district, that becomes the entry-level district where people come teach for 2 or 3 years and then move on somewhere else because they know they're never going to be well paid, then admit it. And just say, we're going to have low paid teachers, and what we're going to have is a lot of consultants who are going to support them.
Yeah.
That's a model. And it looks like that's the model you're doing, even though that's not what you're saying. Sort of looks like that may be the model you're doing. And, be honest with everybody about what it is you really are doing, so that because otherwise there is no congruence. It clearly is hypocritical, and people are not going to respect what you have to say.
Yeah. I've changed from saying give the teachers a living wage to the teachers need to have a competitive wage, competitive to the surrounding districts, and to choose to come here because
That's
they have
right.
a competitive wage. So I think that's a good. And if you live in any of the 5 cities in this district, whether you have children or not, contact the board and the superintendent and tell them you don't want the schools in your city to go on strike, that would be the wrong move. So, and support our teachers, please.
And the strike is not because the teachers are greedy. The strike is because if they do go on strike, it will be because they're not offered anything close to a competitive wage.
No.
That's really what we're talking about. So we have to be clear on what the offers are. All of that's going to come out. It's in the weeds. Most people are not interested in it, but just understand, you have to realize the folks that are fighting for this are fighting for the future of these kids.
Sure.
The alternative is if you don't do it, there is an alternative. And the alternative is that you have the lowest paid teachers, or among the lowest paid teachers, that you become an entry-level district. You're never going to have the veteran, experienced teacher workforce that really can bring excellent results for your children. You're not, because that's not how you've designed your system, unless you put competitive salaries at the center of what you're doing.
Yep. So ever hopeful and ever positive, we have that power to do that. We need to exercise that power.
That's right. As a community, and wherever you are, pay attention to what your community power is, because it is there, which is why I'm going to give my shout out to Dolores Huerta, a person who truly understood the importance of community power.
Oh, absolutely. Shout out to her. Absolutely. Wonderful. Okay.
Okay,
I
we'll
think
see you next time. As we go, next time it'll be episode 190.
90. Get that.
190. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.